Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel, Wrestling with Books, and welcome back to Bookmas in July. What are these little, oh, I'm looking in my viewfinder and like the little numbers coming up look like they were on my shirt. I don't know, but Bookmas in July is a take on Vlogmas that Haley and Bookland had put book instead of vlog into the name for posting bookish videos every day in the month of December, and this year I decided to do a Bookmas in July as my take on Christmas in July. And today, myself as well as some of my Disney YouTube friends and BookTube friends are posting about our favorite children's literature, children's books, and middle grade books as well. I'm not sure if everyone's going to incorporate some middle grade, but we'll see. So I'm going to have all of those videos linked down below. We kind of just have this Instagram group of all of our, because I started as a Disney YouTuber, so it was all the Disney YouTubers who also like to do book content. And then eventually I had made this channel, but we all love to post occasional bookish content. And because we're like Disney fans, we like some children's books. We like our children's literature. So some others are gonna be contributing to and posting their take and their list, and I can't wait to see what everyone comes up with, to see if any of us have the same ones even. But I have my phone out, which is what I'm gonna refer to, where I have my list and my notes. So if you see me looking down, that's why. But the first book I wanna talk about is called A Duet for Home by Karina Yan Glasser, and I have read this most recently, so that's why it's coming up first for me. And it is about two biracial sixth graders, June and Tyrell, and their time living at Huey House, which is a home for the homeless. And Tyrell has been there a long time. June is just getting there, and their friendship grows over a shared love of classical music. But you see how the consequences of the political system, funding, etc. impacts their lives, impacts real people, and this book really just takes you there, but it's still done in a really meaningful and juvenile way. When I say juvenile, I mean that anybody can read this and learn these lessons. I learned them as an adult, but I could share it with a younger child, a sixth grader. It's middle grade, so I feel that you could read this kind of fifth grade and up, and they would just learn these lessons so much sooner. So all the kids should read it, all of them. The next book I want to talk about is part of a series. It is the Myrtle Hardcastle series by Elizabeth C. Bunce. The first book title is Premeditated Myrtle. So Myrtle Hardcastle, this is historical fiction, is middle grade. She is a unique 12-year-old. She has a passion for justice and for crime. And because of her love of criminal science, she kind of just is nosy, always spying on the neighbors. If somebody dies, she wants to further investigate. I mean, like, she wants to see the body. Like, she is intense, but I don't know. The books are like Premeditated Myrtle, How to Get Away with Myrtle, Cold-Blooded Myrtle. Like, the names just crack me up, and that's actually what first attracted me to reading these, and I'm so glad I did. So as an adult, I enjoy reading them, but I think a kid would appreciate not having things dumbed down for them, you know? The next set of books, this is a series as well, and this is one I do not read as an adult, have not read as an adult, but I read as a kid and I loved it, and it was The Little Sisters, The Babysitter's Little Sister. So these are even younger than the Babysitter's Club. This is like, let's say Babysitter's Club, they're in like middle school. this is about like little sister Karen. So this is stuff I could read and was reading in first grade. And the books had like these pastel checkers, and they just had that like feel when you open them. They were so good. So the plots are things like Karen thinks her next door neighbor is a witch, so she's spying on her. You know, Karen wants to start her own babysitters club. Like one is about Karen getting roller skates. And she has glasses and she's a quirky girl. So it's just fun. She was a fun little role model for me. I loved Karen. I loved Karen. Heather from the Disney Housewife. We always talk about like how we got rid of those books. And shouldn't have. But I mean, I'm glad I did, because really, where am I gonna put them? And I don't have kids. What am I gonna do with these books? But I just want to make sure that every other person in the world who has them is taking good care of them, because they're very special. The next book on my list, we're doing 10 of these guys. We're doing 10. Is Harriet the Spy. Okay, we all, I don't know if we all. For me in my youth, it was when the Michelle Trachtenberg movie was coming out, and I was big on Nickelodeon then, and they were talking about that movie all the time. There were commercials and specials. It was just Harriet the Spy, Harriet the Spy. First Nickelodeon movie, you know, it was like such a big deal. But this book, guys, okay, it spoke to me as an adult, because Harriet the Spy is about, you know, she spies, she writes things about everybody in her notebook, and then her notebook gets found, and it's kind of like how she responds, how people respond to her. They obviously get mad, and they're like retaliations. They're angry, they're retaliating. And I read this book kind of after a similar scenario. I had yelped anonymously my friends' weddings, and they found it. I work in weddings, so like I had like an intention to help brides see things, but anyway, that doesn't matter. It was rude, and they found it, and they got angry, and I related to Harriet the Spy. Like, I read this book and I was like, oh my god, she's like, I felt like I could relate to it. It was helping me get through. Harriet the Spy by Louise Fitzhugh. I love this book. I love it. It really, because at any age, I think you can relate to feeling left out, making a mistake, having people gang up on you, or feeling like they are, things like that. And so I love this book, and it's also really snarky and funny. Like, Harriet is funny. Oh my gosh, there were so many like little things that I laughed out loud about in Harriet the Spy. I remember getting this book at a garage sale, I think in like 5th grade into 6th grade. It's a nice hardcover. I remember like the little illustration of Harriet. Fantastic. But I read it as an adult on ebook, and so glad I did. Harriet, you saved me. So the next one I'm going to talk about is more of a deeper read. You know, a lot of these are, and this book in specific was like, okay, I can enjoy reading these middle grade children's literature novels because they have big lessons, and they're so meaningful, and they're incredible books. They shouldn't be left out. They're incredible. Okay, so this one is Beyond the Bright Sea by Lauren Wolk. And right now you're probably seeing, maybe here the book cover. It's gorgeous. This is like a gorgeous book cover. So that helped bring me to it. And this is about a 12-year-old named Crow. So she's lived her entire life on this tiny island. She's been adopted. It's called Elizabeth Islands in Massachusetts. And she was abandoned and set adrift in a boat just when she was hours old, and that's how her story begins. And she was found by a man named, is it Osh and Miss Maggie. They raise her together. They're not a couple. I believe it's just like a community. And yeah, she's just like their neighbor. And this becomes historical fiction. I don't want to spoil about her origins and why she was sent away, but there's a reason, and it is just so incredibly written, impactful. If you want to know what it is, like, just the Goodreads will have spoiler reviews that you can click, but I just encourage that you read it. It was a really it's a realistic tale. It's not magical or whimsical, but the feeling of it is, and that's what I really liked about it. It also is an adoption story, so if that's something you're interested in, or maybe you have a kid, teen, young adult in your life who is then this is a book to keep on your radar. The next book is Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. This is a book of poems if you haven't heard of it before, and this is like the gateway poetry book, right? When you're a kid, like, you see that poems can be fun with fun illustrations. You see they can be short, you see they can be long, you see they can rhyme, you see they can not rhyme. But I think what really gets away is that you're like, wow, I could do this. Poems are just creative, and I can be creative, and creativity doesn't mean one thing. And this is all coming through just through Shel Silverstein's collections of poems. So I loved his poetry book. It's something you can enjoy as an adult or as a child. I remember my sister's book and like the feel of it. She had the hardcover copy of it, and it was something so special that she was much older than me, so she was in her late teens, early 20s, and she had a copy of the book. And here I am, her younger sister in 3rd grade, and I want a copy of the book. So if you haven't read these, or if you're looking to maybe do something with your kids, nieces, nephews, this is a great poetry book, or to just read alone. You know, they're really funny and witty, and I wonder if I read it cover to cover again as an adult, like how I feel about some of the poems again, so I have to do that. I'm gonna put that on my list. And another kid's book, one of my favorites when I was in 4th grade, is Socks by Beverly Cleary. I think I should read it again because I bet I'd love it more now as a cat mom. So it's about a cat named Socks who gets jealous when his parents, you know, his owners, have a baby. I know, I'm looking at Busto. I think I can't do that to you. I couldn't do that to him. So I don't know. Maybe I couldn't handle Socks. I don't know. But Socks was a great one. I wasn't as into the Ramona books. My sister's really into Ramona, but I was into Socks because I loved animals as a kid. Even though I was allergic to cats, loved them. The next one is, and the one after it too, they're kind of like the same feeling of Beyond the Bright Sea, where these are middle grade books that were just so wow and blew me away and helped me really start to love this just period of books, this age group of books. But this one is called Blooming at the Texas Sunrise Hotel by Kimberly Willis Holt, and it follows 12-year-old Stevie, and her parents have died and her world has to change, and she has to move with her grandfather who owns this motel. And despite her best efforts, and maybe his, they're just not connecting. So she ends up leaning on the residents of the motel, and they begin she connects with them, and they decide to make this garden despite his wishes. And you know, through the challenges that come, he ends up realizing how important she is and the relationship with her is. Just another great book about kind of created community, you know, because she's without her parents and has to create this community for herself within the motel. I think anyone would love this. I would say starting at 5th grade for this one. The next one is Lemons by Melissa Savage. This one is a lot of fun, but also kind of starts with tragedy, where we have Lem, and her father is pretty much missing. I believe he is a war veteran, and they don't exactly know what happens, so they have to move with her grandfather, and she's just not happy. It's much more of a nature-based town, but she's not used to, so she's like, oh, it's mud and woods. But then she meets Tobin, and he is the CEO of the Bigfoot Detectives, and Lem happens to believe that Bigfoot exists and that he's like in the woods right there. They go to discover this together, and as these things happen, they end up finding more than they ever could have imagined. So we'll put it that way. But this is another book that's filled with just like childish fun, but also like just a whole lot of lessons and meaning. So much fun. And because I wanted to round it out to 10, I'm going to talk about my favorite Harry Potter book, which is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. This one I still consider to be the children's and middle grade Harry Potter book. I think Gilderoy Lockhart is just such a hoot. I don't want to get too deep into Harry Potter because you all know about Harry Potter. So there isn't, you know, much. It's not like anyone's being like, oh, oh, I should read that Harry Potter. I mean, maybe you are, you haven't, but the Chamber of Secrets I just find to be a lot of fun. It's not when the stories are getting more fleshed out with Voldemort or anything, but I just find it fun and nice, like carefree escapism. And that's pretty much going to round out my list. I wanted to give an honorable mention to Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I just consider that more young adult. I don't know where I draw these lines, but for that one I consider it young adult. I also love having the Wizard of Oz books, but I don't necessarily like reading them. Same thing with like Peter Pan and Alice. I like the aesthetics of them, but I don't necessarily like reading them. So I didn't want to put them down as a favorite. But I bet some of the channels here are gonna have them. So be sure to check out everybody down below and make this a fun little watch. You know, consider adding some of these to your list. If I've convinced you on any of these, please let me know down below. I'm gonna be back tomorrow with another video because it's Bookmas in freaking July. How exciting is that? Thanks for being here, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.